A billionaire wakes up in his mistress's bed, confident his prenup is bulletproof and his wife is clueless. But when he walks through his front door that morning, he finds divorce papers waiting and a pregnant wife who's been tracking his every move for 6 months. She's gathered evidence he never knew existed. She's built alliances with people he trusted, and she's about to prove that the most dangerous woman in the world is the one a man underestimates. This is the story of how Claire Montgomery went from trophy wife to warrior, and how she turned her husband's arrogance into his downfall. Stay with me, because what happens next will shock you. James Montgomery woke in Ashley Pierce's bed for the 47th time. He didn't count these mornings, Ashley did. She lay beside him now in the pre-dawn silence, her auburn hair perfectly arranged even at this ungodly hour, scrolling through her phone with the same focused efficiency she brought to managing his calendar. The sheets were expensive. Everything in Ashley's apartment was expensive because James paid for it. The lease, the furniture, the view of Central Park from the 23rd floor. He considered it an investment in his happiness, no different from his gym membership or his custom suits. James stretched, admiring his reflection in the mirrored closet doors. 47 years old and he still had it. The personal trainer was worth every penny. The hair plugs had been subtle enough that no one noticed. He looked like success incarnate. Ashley glanced over at him. Her eyes were calculating, always calculating. That's what he liked about her. She understood the transaction. Claire had stopped understanding the transaction years ago. "When are you telling her?" Ashley asked. Her voice was soft, but the question was hard. James sat up against the headboard. This conversation happened every few weeks now. Ashley was getting impatient. He needed to manage that impatience carefully. After the Kensington Tower deal closes, 3 months, maybe 4, the prenup is bulletproof. Her lawyers looked at it 18 years ago and told her to sign. She did. He said this with satisfaction. Claire had been so in love back then, so trusting. It had made everything easier. And Becca, Ashley pressed, she'll be at Yale by then. Kids adapt. She'll spend holidays with both of us. Very civilized. James reached for his watch on the nightstand. 6:45. Time to head home for the performance. Ashley watched him dress. He could feel her eyes tracking his movements, cataloging them. She was 29 and already thinking about expiration dates. Smart girl. Too smart sometimes. He kissed her forehead before leaving. Proprietary, not passionate. Same time next week? Of course, she smiled. It didn't reach her eyes. Miguel was waiting with the car. 12 years James had employed Miguel, and the man said nothing as James slid into the back seat. Discretion was priceless in a driver. Miguel had seen everything and said nothing to no one. That's why his salary was twice the market rate. James scrolled through his phone as they merged onto the Merritt Parkway. Stock alerts showed his portfolio up 3%. An email from his lawyer confirmed what he already knew. The prenup was unbreakable. His CFO had sent the board meeting agenda. The Kensington deal was looking strong. Then, one text from Claire, sent at 6 in the morning. "We need to talk when you get home." James rolled his eyes. Probably another charity gala budget discussion. Or she wanted to add another wing to some museum with her name on it. Fine, write the check. Keep her busy with her hobbies. That's what he'd been doing for years. What James didn't notice was Miguel's eyes in the rearview mirror. They were sympathetic, knowing. Miguel had driven Claire to her lawyer's office 11 times in the past 6 weeks. He knew exactly what was waiting at home. The Montgomery estate appeared through the trees as they pulled up the long driveway. 8 bedrooms, 10 bathrooms, 6 acres of manicured grounds. James had built this empire from nothing. Well, almost nothing. There had been some help along the way, but he preferred not to think about that. The house was silent, not quiet, silent. There was no coffee brewing in the chef's kitchen, no CNN murmuring from the study, no housekeeper humming while arranging fresh flowers. The silence had weight to it, density. James felt it settle on his shoulders as he walked through the foyer. "Claire?" He passed the original Rothko they'd purchased at Sotheby's for $12 million. Past the grand staircase where Becca had posed for prom photos last spring. Radiant in midnight blue. His footsteps echoed on marble floors. The formal living room door was open. The one they never used. The one reserved for weddings and funerals and occasions that required formality. His grandmother had died in a chair in this room. His mother had announced his father's bankruptcy here. Nothing good ever happened in the formal living room. Claire sat in the center of the white sofa. She wore a navy dress, simple and expensive. Her hair was pulled back in a way that exposed her face completely. No hiding. No jewelry except her father's watch, the one Thomas Sullivan had worn on the bench for 30 years. On the coffee table between them sat a manila envelope. "Open it," Claire said. Her voice was steady, too steady. James laughed. He couldn't help it. "Honey, if this is about the Met Gala budget—" "It's not. Open it." Something in her tone made him pick up the envelope. It was too light for a charity proposal, too thin for architectural plans. He pulled out the papers. Petition for dissolution of marriage. The words swam. He read them again. Again. They didn't change. "This is a joke," he said. "It's not." "Claire, what? Did you have a bad therapy session? Is this about the affair? Because I told you that was a mistake. It's over." "You're at her apartment right now." Claire's voice remained steady. "Your car is still parked in her building's garage. You've been there 47 times this year. I know because I've been tracking your location since January." The room tilted. James gripped the arm of the chair across from her. "You've been spying on me?" "I've been protecting myself. There's a difference." His phone buzzed. A text from Ashley. "You left your watch. Same time next week?" Claire's eyes flicked to his phone. Her expression didn't change. She already knew. Of course she knew. "Claire, listen to me." James sat down, deploying his boardroom voice, the one that closed deals and calmed investors. "You're upset. I understand. But divorce is extreme. We have a daughter. We have a life together. We have nothing together," Claire interrupted. "We have a house. We have assets. We have a daughter who will be at college in 4 months. But we don't have a marriage. We haven't had one for a long time." "That's not true. We're partners." "Partners don't lie to each other 47 times." The number hung in the air between them. She'd been counting. For months she'd been counting. The doorbell rang. Claire didn't move. "That's the process server. He's here to serve you formally. I wanted to tell you first. Professional courtesy." "Professional courtesy?" James stood, his voice rising. "Claire, this is insane. What's insane is that I stayed. What's insane is that I believed you. What's insane is that I wasted 18 years building your empire while you built your escape plan." Footsteps in the hallway. Diane Hutchinson walked in wearing a charcoal suit and an expression of grim satisfaction. James had met Diane at their wedding, Claire's best friend from college. Sharp, ambitious, now one of Manhattan's most vicious divorce attorneys. "Good morning, James," Diane said. "Diane, you're representing her?" James felt the ground shifting beneath his feet. Diane knew everything. Years of dinner parties, years of couples vacations. She knew where all the bodies were buried. "I am. And before you call your lawyers, you should know, we've filed motions to freeze all joint accounts pending forensic audit. We've also filed for emergency temporary support. And we've submitted a motion to depose Ashley Pierce regarding her knowledge of marital asset transfers." James's phone began ringing. His lawyer, then his CFO, then his board chairman. All at once, the formal living room, where nothing good ever happened, had just become his personal disaster. Claire Montgomery stood in her gallery bathroom, holding a pregnancy test with shaking hands. 2 pink lines stared back at her. Positive, impossible. But there they were. She was 42 years old. Becca was 17. They weren't trying. They weren't even sleeping together regularly. The last time had been, when? 6 weeks ago? That night after the charity auction, when James had been unusually attentive, unusually present. She thought maybe things were improving. That was before she found the hotel receipt. Claire sat in her car in the gallery parking lot, staring at the positive test on the passenger seat. She should feel something. Joy, maybe. Terror. Something. Instead, she felt numb. Her phone rang. Dr. Patricia Morrison, her therapist. "Claire, you missed our appointment." "I'm sorry, I'm at the gallery. I lost track of time." "Are you okay? You sound distant." Claire laughed. It sounded hollow even to her own ears. "I'm pregnant." Silence on the other end. Then, does James know? No. Are you going to tell him? I don't know. Claire watched people walk past her car, normal people living normal lives. Pat, what do you do when the floor disappears? What do you mean? I found a hotel receipt, the Peninsula, $847. He told me he was in Boston that night. More silence. Dr. Morrison was good at silence, at letting it stretch until Claire filled it. I confronted him, Claire continued. He cried. He said it was a mistake. He was drunk. He was stressed about the Kensington deal. He said it meant nothing. He said I was his life, me and Becca. He begged me not to leave. And you stayed. I wanted to believe him. God, I wanted to believe him so badly. Claire pressed her palm against her still flat stomach. And now there's this baby, and I don't know if it's a complication or a reason or just another way he can control me. Claire, listen to me carefully. You need to think about what you want. Not what's best for Becca, not what's best for James. What do you want? What did she want? Claire tried to remember the last time anyone had asked her that question. Years ago, maybe never. I want proof, Claire heard herself say. I want to know for sure. And if you find proof, then I'll know I'm not crazy. That night, Claire installed a GPS tracking app on James's phone. He never noticed. He was always so confident that she was too naive, too trusting, too busy with her little gallery to pay attention to what really mattered. She watched the blue dot on her phone screen. His office, the club, normal. Normal? Normal. Then, Ashley Pierce's address, 10 p.m. He didn't leave until 6 a.m. Claire sat alone in their king-size bed and didn't cry much. She was done crying. The next night, Ashley's address again, and again, and again. By the end of January, Claire had a log. Dates, times, locations. She took screenshots. She backed everything up to a cloud drive James didn't know existed. She was methodical, thorough, cold. In February, she called Diane. They met at a cafe in Stamford, far enough from home that no one would recognize them. Diane ordered black coffee. Claire ordered tea she didn't drink. How bad? Diane asked. Claire slid her phone across the table. Diane scrolled through the evidence. Her expression didn't change, but her jaw tightened. This is systematic, Diane said. This isn't a mistake. This is a pattern. I know. What do you want to do? I want to protect myself and Becca, and Claire's hand moved to her stomach. I'm pregnant. Diane's eyes widened. Does he know? No, and I'm not telling him. Not yet. Why not? Because the moment I tell him, everything changes. He'll use it. He'll tell me I'm being hormonal. He'll say I need to think about the baby. He'll weaponize my own child against me. Claire met Diane's eyes. I need to be ready first. Diane leaned back. Okay, here's what we do. For the next 4 months, Claire became someone she didn't recognize. She copied documents from James's home office at 2 in the morning. She met with forensic accountants. She learned about offshore accounts and shell corporations and fraudulent conveyance. She learned that the gallery she thought she owned had been transferred to one of James's holding companies. Her signature on the transfer documents? Except it wasn't her signature. Not quite. The loops were wrong. The pressure was different. He'd forged it. She learned that James had borrowed $8 million from her father 15 years ago. Thomas Sullivan had co-signed the loan, thinking it was temporary. James had restructured the debt, putting it entirely in Thomas's name. Her father had been paying $47,000 a year in interest for 15 years. His entire retirement, gone. She learned that James had $18 million in offshore accounts, money that should have been marital assets, money he'd been hiding for years. With each discovery, Claire's resolve hardened. This wasn't a marriage ending. This was a crime being exposed. In May, at 14 weeks pregnant, Claire told her father she was filing for divorce. Thomas Sullivan, retired federal judge, early-stage dementia, making his memory spotty, was lucid that day. About time, he said. Dad, I'm so sorry about the money. Don't be sorry. Be angry. Use that anger. Thomas held her hands. I was a judge for 30 years, Claire Bear. I know what men like James do. They take and take until there's nothing left. Then they act surprised when you fight back. I'm scared. Good. Fear means you're paying attention, but don't let it stop you. In early June, Becca came home from school to find her mother crying in the kitchen. Mom, what's wrong? Claire couldn't tell her, not yet. Becca still looked at James with hero worship. Becca still believed in the fairy tale. Nothing, baby, just hormones. Are you pregnant? Becca's eyes were wide. Claire froze, then nodded. Oh my God, Mom! Does Dad know? Not yet, it's early. I want to make sure everything's okay first. Becca hugged her. This is amazing. I'm going to be a sister. Claire held her daughter and felt her heart break. Becca wouldn't think it was amazing much longer. By July, Claire had everything ready. The evidence, the motions, the strategy. Diane had prepared emergency filings to freeze assets. Marcus Reed, the forensic accountant, had documented everything. All Claire needed was the right moment. That moment came on a Monday morning in early November when James left Ashley's apartment at 6:47 a.m., smug and satisfied, certain that his world was secure. He had no idea it was about to detonate. James Montgomery sat in the conference room of Price and Associates, Manhattan's most aggressive divorce firm. Three partners faced him across an acre of polished mahogany. Nathan Price, the lead attorney, was 60-something and looked like he ate opposing counsel for breakfast. The prenup is solid, Nathan said. She gets the gallery building and $2 million. That's it. Then why am I here? James drummed his fingers on the table. He had a board meeting in 2 hours. This was wasting time. Because she's not challenging the prenup. She's challenging the marriage itself. James leaned forward. On what grounds? Fraud, coercion. She claims you misrepresented assets at the time of signing. She's also claiming you forged her signature on several corporate restructuring documents. That's insane. Nathan's expression didn't change. Did you? The silence stretched too long. I may have signed some paperwork on her behalf, James said carefully. She was busy with the gallery. I had power of attorney. For medical decisions, Nathan interrupted, not corporate restructuring. James, did you transfer the gallery property into KC Holdings without her knowledge? It was a tax strategy. It was fraud. Nathan slid a document across the table. And if she can prove it, the prenup is void. James's phone buzzed. His CFO. He ignored it. What does she want? She hasn't made an offer yet, but based on her filings, I'd say she wants blood. The preliminary forensic report arrived that afternoon. James read it in his office, door locked, hands shaking. $14 million in marital assets transferred to offshore accounts over 18 months, all requiring Claire's signature. Signatures that didn't quite match her handwriting. His phone rang. Becca. Dad, what's happening? Mom said she's divorcing you? James closed his eyes. Time to control the narrative. Baby, your mother is going through something. She's having a breakdown. I think the gallery is stressing her out. She said you've been cheating on her. That was a mistake, one time. I told her, I apologize, but she's obsessing over it. She's acting irrational. She said she's pregnant. James's world stopped. What? She's pregnant, Dad. 14 weeks. Did you know? No, he didn't know. Claire was pregnant with his child and hadn't told him. Why hadn't she told him? The answer hit him like cold water, because she knew exactly how he'd use it. Becca, listen to me. Your mother is upset and pregnant and not thinking clearly. The hormones, don't blame hormones, Dad. That's such a cop-out. I'm just saying she needs support right now. Medical support, professional support. I'm worried about her. He heard Becca breathing on the other end of the line, processing, deciding. I don't know who to believe. Becca said quietly, believe me, baby, I'm your father. I love you. I love your mother. I made a mistake, but we can fix this as a family. Mom has a lawyer, a really good one. I know, Diane Hutchinson. James kept his voice gentle, concerned. Diane is trying to help, but she's making things worse. She's turning this into a war when it should be a conversation. I have to go. Becca, wait. She hung up. James sat in his office as the sun set over Manhattan. His empire was under siege. His wife, pregnant wife, had declared war. His daughter didn't know who to trust. For the first time in 20 years, James Montgomery felt the floor shifting beneath his feet. Nathan called at 8 p.m. "We need to file an emergency motion tomorrow." "For what?" "Custody of Rebecca and mental health evaluation for Claire. We're going to argue that she's having a breakdown, that she's a danger to herself in the pregnancy." "Diane will fight that." "Let her. We have the evidence. Claire breaking into your office at 2 a.m. Claire installing spyware on your phone. Claire exhibiting increasingly erratic behavior. The judge will see a woman spiraling, not a woman protecting herself." "What about the financial fraud?" "We'll deal with that separately. Right now, we focus on painting Claire as unstable. Once we have custody, we have leverage." James knew he should feel guilty. He should feel something for the woman he'd married 18 years ago. But all he felt was the old familiar need: control. "Do it," he said. The emergency hearing was scheduled for Friday morning. Claire arrived at Connecticut Family Court with Diane at her side. She wore a simple gray dress and minimal makeup. She looked tired but composed, pregnant but professional. James watched her walk past him without a glance. Ice, pure ice. Judge Sandra Martinez presided. 60 years old, stern, no nonsense. She'd been on the bench for 20 years and had seen every variation of marital warfare. "We're here on Mr. Montgomery's emergency motion for temporary custody," Judge Martinez said. "Price." Nathan stood. "Your Honor, we're here because Mrs. Montgomery has exhibited increasingly erratic and concerning behavior. She installed tracking software on my client's vehicle without his knowledge or consent. She hired private investigators to surveil him. She broke into his private office and photographed confidential corporate documents." Diane started to object, but Nathan continued. "I'd like to submit Exhibit A." The courtroom screen lit up with security footage. Claire at 2 in the morning in James's home office, photographing documents with her phone. James watched his wife on the screen. Methodical, thorough, not erratic at all. The video was damaging, but not in the way Nathan thought. "Your Honor," Diane stood, "my client was gathering evidence of financial fraud." "Or committing corporate espionage," Nathan interrupted. "Your Honor, my client is the CEO of a publicly traded company. Mrs. Montgomery had access to confidential corporate documents. We don't know what she photographed or who she shared it with. This could have SEC implications." Judge Martinez turned to Claire. "Mrs. Montgomery, why were you in your husband's office at 2 a.m.? Claire stood slowly. James saw her hand move to her belly, protective, unconscious. "Because it's the only time he wasn't there, Your Honor. Because every time I tried to have an honest conversation about our finances, he patronized me. Told me not to worry about money, that it was his job to handle it. Because I knew he was hiding something." "And you thought breaking and entering was the appropriate response?" "It wasn't breaking and entering. It was my home, my office. And yes, I thought documenting potential fraud was appropriate." "Your Honor," Nathan interjected smoothly, "I'd like to call a witness, Ashley Pierce." James felt Claire stiffen across the aisle. This was the play. Ashley on the stand, sympathetic and composed, painting Claire as the villain. Ashley walked to the witness box. She wore a navy dress that matched Claire's almost exactly. Deliberate. She looked like the stable one, the reasonable one. "Mr. Pierce, how long have you worked for Mr. Montgomery?" 3 years. I'm his executive assistant." "Have you observed the Montgomery marriage?" "Yes, I attend corporate events with them regularly." "How would you characterize their relationship?" Ashley's voice was soft, regretful. "Strained, Claire." Mrs. Montgomery was often cold to James in public. She'd make cutting remarks about his work. She'd leave events early without him. It seemed like she'd checked out of the marriage emotionally. James watched Claire's face. Stone. She'd learned from him, he realized, how to show nothing. "Miss Pierce, did Mr. Montgomery ever discuss his marriage with you?" "He told me the marriage had been dead for years, that they were only staying together for Becca." "Did you and Mr. Montgomery have an affair?" Ashley paused, looked down. Then quietly, "Yes." Gasps rippled through the courtroom. James kept his expression neutral, remorseful but not ashamed. But it only started because Claire rejected him. Ashley continued. He showed me text messages where she refused his advances, where she told him she was done trying. Nathan pulled up texts on the screen. James, can we talk when I get home? Claire, to you. I'm tired. James, I miss you. Claire, I'm done, James. Out of context, they looked damning. In context, Claire had sent those texts the week after she'd discovered his first affair, the week he'd sworn it was over. Mrs. Montgomery pushed her husband away, Nathan said, and now she's punishing him for finding comfort elsewhere. Diane stood. Your Honor, these texts are deliberately misleading. Do you have evidence to counter this narrative, Mrs. Hutchinson? We're gathering. Until you present concrete evidence of fraud, I'm ruling in favor of Mr. Montgomery's emergency motion. He has granted temporary primary custody of Rebecca Montgomery. Mrs. Montgomery will have supervised visitation every other weekend pending further evaluation. The gavel fell. Supervised visitation. Claire ran from the courtroom. James heard her retching in the bathroom before he even made it to the hallway. He'd won. Why didn't it feel like winning? Claire stayed with Diane for 3 days after the custody hearing. She couldn't go back to the estate. James had changed the locks. Her belongings arrived in boxes delivered by a service. Everything she owned, reduced to cardboard and packing peanuts. She sat on Diane's guest bed, surrounded by boxes, and felt nothing. That was worse than feeling everything. The numbness was complete. Her phone rang constantly. Becca, 12 missed calls. Claire couldn't answer. What would she say? Your father weaponized the legal system against me and won? On the 4th day, Diane found her still in bed at 2 p.m. You need to get up. Why? Claire's voice was flat. Because we have a strategy session in an hour. Marcus found something. It doesn't matter what he found. The judge believes I'm crazy. Diane sat on the edge of the bed. You're not crazy. You're grieving. I lost my daughter. You lost a custody battle. There's a difference. She won't even answer my calls. She's 17 and confused, and her father is very, very good at manipulation. Give her time. Claire laughed bitterly. Time? Right. I'm 24 weeks pregnant. Time is not something I have. Then get up, get dressed, get angry, because angry women change the world. Sad women just suffer in silence. Marcus Reed's office was clinical. White walls, glass desk, computer screens everywhere. He looked like an accountant in a crime thriller. Methodical, precise, dangerous in the quietest way possible. I found the smoking gun, Marcus said without preamble. He pulled up documents on the screen. Bank transfers, corporate filings, signature comparisons. James didn't just forge your signature on the gallery transfer, he forged it on 12 different documents over the past 5 years. Corporate restructuring, real estate transfers, loan applications. I ran the signatures through forensic analysis. The pressure points are wrong. The letter formations don't match your baseline samples. Claire stared at her own forged signatures. Can we prove this in court? Absolutely. I can testify as an expert witness. I have the analysis, the software reports, everything. What about the offshore accounts? Marcus clicked to another screen. $14.3 million across 3 different accounts. Cayman Islands, Switzerland, Singapore, all open using your social security number and copies of your passport. But you never signed the account applications. How do you know? Because the applications were submitted electronically from James's office computer. I pulled the metadata. IP addresses, timestamps. You were at a gallery opening in Boston when these accounts were created. Diane leaned forward. This is fraud, potentially criminal fraud. What does that mean? Claire asked. It means we can file an amended complaint, and we can refer this to the U.S. Attorney's Office for criminal prosecution. Prison. James could go to prison. Claire thought about Becca, about the baby growing inside her, about what it would mean for her children to have a father in federal prison. I don't want to destroy him, Claire said quietly. I just want him to stop destroying me. Then we use this as leverage, Diane said. We file the amended complaint. We show Nathan Price exactly what we have, and we make James an offer he can't refuse. That night, Claire's phone finally rang with a number she recognized. Becca. Mom? Claire's hands shook. Baby, hi. I'm sorry I didn't call sooner. I didn't know what to say. You don't have to say anything. Are you okay? Aunt Diane said you're staying with her. I'm fine. How are you? Silence. Then, I miss you. I miss you too. So much. Dad says you're sick, that you need help. Claire closed her eyes. Of course he did. I'm not sick, Becca. I'm pregnant, and I'm fighting for our family, and I'm exhausted. But I'm not sick. He showed me the video of you in his office. I was looking for proof that he was lying to me. I found it. What kind of proof? The kind that shows he's been stealing from us for years. The kind that shows he forged my signature on legal documents. The kind that proves everything I've been saying is true. I don't know what to believe anymore. Then don't believe anyone. Look at the evidence yourself. Ask to see the forensic reports. Ask your father why there are offshore accounts in my name that I never opened. Ask him why the signatures don't match. Becca was crying. I just want this to be over. Me too, baby. Me too. I got into Yale. I know, I'm so proud of you. Early decision. I have to commit by December 15th. You should go. Don't let this stop you from living your life. How can I go to Yale when my family's falling apart? Your family isn't falling apart. It's rearranging. And you need to live your life anyway. That's what being an adult means. I don't want to be an adult. I want to be 12 again when everything was simple. Everything was simple because you didn't know the truth. Now you do. And that's harder. But it's real. They talked for another hour. About nothing. About everything. When they hung up, Claire felt like maybe, possibly, she hadn't lost her daughter entirely. The next day, Claire visited her father in Boston. Thomas Sullivan's dementia was progressing. Some days he was sharp. Some days he didn't remember his own name. Today was a good day. You look like hell, Claire Bear, Thomas said. Thanks, Dad. But how's the war going? I lost the first battle. Wars aren't won in the first battle. They're won through attrition, through outlasting your opponent. James has more resources than I do. Better lawyers, more money. But he doesn't have the truth on his side, and eventually that matters. Thomas stood slowly, leaning on his cane. Come with me. I need to show you something. They went to his study. Thomas pulled out a file box from the bottom drawer of his desk. When James asked for your hand, I didn't trust him. Too smooth. Too perfect. So I did what any judge would do. I looked into his finances. Dad, you never told me because I thought I was being an overprotective father. I thought I was wrong. He handed her a folder. I wasn't wrong. Inside, loan documents, bank statements, correspondence spanning 15 years. In 1998, James needed $8 million for his first major development. He asked me to co-sign the loan. He said it was a formality. His assets were tied up in other deals. Claire's hands shook as she read. You co-signed? I did. For you. Because you loved him. Thomas sat down heavily. But Claire, he never paid it back. He restructured the debt. Put it in my name. I've been paying $47,000 a year in interest for 15 years. The numbers swam on the page. $705,000. Her father's entire retirement. Dad, your retirement is gone. Every cent I saved to leave you and Becca. James took it all. This is elder financial abuse. It's fraud, Thomas corrected. And now you have proof. Claire drove back to Connecticut with the documents on the passenger seat. Her phone rang. Unknown number. She almost didn't answer. Then instinct made her pick up. Claire, it's Ashley. Ashley Pierce, I need to talk to you. They met at a neutral coffee shop in Stamford. Ashley arrived first, wearing oversized sunglasses and a baseball cap, like she was in a spy movie. Claire almost laughed. Almost. Diane insisted on coming. You don't meet with opposing witnesses alone. Ashley looked nervous. Good. She should be nervous. Claire studied her across the table. 29. Beautiful. The kind of beautiful that took work but looked effortless. James had a type, apparently. Thank you for meeting me, Ashley said. You lied under oath, Claire said flatly. You destroyed me in that courtroom. So why am I here? Ashley slid an envelope across the table. Because I'm pregnant, 8 weeks, and James doesn't know. The world tilted. Claire felt Diane's hand on her arm, steadying. I found out last week, Ashley continued. I was going to tell him. I thought, she laughed bitterly, I thought he'd be happy. I thought we'd be a family. What changed? Diane asked. I went to his office to tell him. The door was open. He was on the phone with Nathan. Ashley pulled out her phone. Her hands were shaking. She pressed play. James's voice, tinny through the speaker, but unmistakable. Once Claire is handled, I'll need a clean exit from Ashley. Nathan's voice, payout? James, 50,000 and an NDA. She's getting clingy. Nathan, what if she's pregnant? James laughing. She's not. I made sure of that. Ashley stopped the recording. But I am, and when I heard that, when I realized I was just the next version of you, Claire felt something crack in her chest, not sympathy exactly. Recognition. She was looking at herself 18 years ago, young and trusting and in love with a man who saw people as acquisitions. Why should I believe you? Claire asked. Because I'm 29 years old and I just realized I wasted 3 years of my life on a man who sees women as temporary investments. Because my mother was the second wife to a rich man, and I watched what happened to her when he upgraded to wife number 3. Ashley pushed a flash drive across the table. Everything. Recordings of him bragging about the offshore accounts, emails about restructuring deals without your knowledge, proof he forged your signature on the gallery transfer, proof he's been planning this divorce for 18 months while pretending to reconcile with you. Diane picked up the flash drive like it was a bomb. This is everything we need. I don't want his money, Ashley said. I want him to know what it feels like to be disposable. Claire studied Ashley's face. The hurt there was real. The anger was real. But could she trust it? You could have kept this, used it yourself, gotten a settlement, and spend the next 18 years co-parenting with a narcissist? No, thank you. Better to burn the bridge and start over. What do you want from me? I want him to lose, and I want to watch. Diane and Claire spent 3 days going through Ashley's evidence. It was damning. Worse than damning, it was devastating. James on recording. Claire's too stupid to check the offshore accounts. She thinks I'm working late. James in email. Transfer the gallery property to KC Holdings. I'll handle Claire's signature. James in text to his CFO. Once the divorce is final, the prenup protects everything. She gets her little gallery and $2 million. I keep the empire. Marcus Reed reviewed everything. This changes the entire case. We can prove systematic fraud, premeditation, financial abuse spanning nearly 2 decades. What are our options? Claire asked. Diane's expression was grim. We file an amended complaint in civil court, and we report this to the U.S. Attorney's Office for criminal investigation. Prison? Claire's hand moved to her belly. 26 weeks. She felt the baby kick. 5 to 10 years, potentially. Financial fraud, forgery, elder abuse regarding your father's loan, wire fraud for the offshore accounts. Everyone looked at Claire. He's still Becca's father, Claire said quietly. He's also a criminal, Diane countered. I know, but if I send him to prison, what does that do to Becca? What does that do to this baby? Ashley spoke up. He didn't think about your kids when he was planning his exit. Why should you think about them now? Because I'm not him. Claire met Ashley's eyes. That's the whole point. I'm not him. Diane leaned forward. What if we don't go criminal? What if we use this as leverage? Leverage for what? Everything. Full custody, fair asset division, your father's money returned with interest, and most importantly, you keep the power. Marcus added, if we threaten criminal prosecution, Nathan will advise James to settle immediately. No judge, no trial. You dictate the terms. And if he refuses, then we file with the U.S. attorney and he goes to prison. Claire thought about Becca, about the baby she was carrying, about the next 18 years of custody exchanges and birthday parties and graduations where she'd have to see James's face. I want him to surrender, Claire said, not just lose, surrender. They drafted the amended complaint that night. Every piece of evidence, every forged signature, every offshore account, every lie spanning 18 years. The complaint was 62 pages. Claire read it 3 times before signing. At midnight, Diane hand-delivered it to Nathan Price's office. She called from the lobby. "Nathan will have it by 8 a.m. tomorrow," Diane said. "I left it with the night security guard with instructions to put it on his desk first thing." What happens now? Now we wait, and we prepare for James to either come to the negotiating table or go to war. Claire couldn't sleep. She sat in Diane's guest room, one hand on her belly, feeling the baby kick. A boy. She'd found out 2 weeks ago. Owen. She was going to name him Owen after her grandfather. Owen would never know the James who charmed her at a gallery opening 20 years ago. Owen would only know the aftermath, the ruins. Was that better or worse? Her phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. "This is Miguel, Mr. Montgomery's driver. I drove you to your lawyer's office 11 times. I want you to know I saw everything. I will testify if you need me." Claire stared at the message. Miguel, quiet, composed Miguel, who'd driven them for 12 years. Who'd seen everything and said nothing because James paid him to say nothing. Even the bystanders were choosing sides. At 8:15 the next morning, Diane's phone rang. "Nathan Price." Diane put it on speaker. "Nathan, we need to meet. Today, your office, 2 p.m. Have you reviewed the complaint?" "I've reviewed it." Nathan's voice was tight. "We're prepared to discuss settlement terms." "I'm sure you are." They hung up. Diane looked at Claire. "He's scared. I've known Nathan for 15 years. I've never heard him scared." "Good," Claire said. "Let him be scared." At 2 p.m., Nathan Price arrived at Diane's office alone. No associates, no paralegal, just him and a briefcase. "Where's James?" Claire asked. "At his office, having a breakdown." Nathan looked like he'd aged 5 years overnight. "I've been practicing family law for 30 years. I've seen nasty divorces. I've seen fraud. I've seen abuse. But this is systematic. This is criminal enterprise-level misconduct." "Yes," Diane said, "it is. If you file the criminal complaint, James goes to prison. The company stock will crash. Thousands of employees will lose their jobs. The board will face shareholder lawsuits. You'll destroy more than just James." "He destroyed more than just himself," Claire said. "He destroyed my father's retirement. He destroyed my trust. He destroyed 18 years of my life. I understand, and he's prepared to make it right." "How generous." Nathan opened his briefcase. "Here's what we're offering." Nathan Price laid out the settlement terms like he was defusing a bomb. Carefully, precisely, knowing one wrong move would detonate everything. 60-40 asset split. Claire gets 60% of all marital assets. Diane didn't react. "Continue. Full repayment to Thomas Sullivan, $705,000 plus interest calculated at the federal rate. Total, $1.1 million. And the gallery property returned to Claire's name, free and clear of all liens. And Nathan took a breath. Joint legal custody of both children. Primary physical custody to Claire. James gets standard visitation. Every other weekend, alternating holidays. Claire felt the baby kick, hard, like Owen was weighing in on the negotiations. "What about the offshore accounts?" Marcus Reed asked. "There's $14.3 million in hidden assets. 60% of that is $8.58 million. Your offer doesn't mention that. We're prepared to include those funds in the marital estate division." "How magnanimous," Diane said dryly. "Considering their marital assets he stole. We're also prepared to pay all of Claire's legal fees and establish a trust fund for Owen in the amount of $2 million. Claire spoke for the first time. "And the criminal complaint?" "Withdrawn. You don't file with the U.S. attorney. This stays civil." "So James gets away with it." "James loses everything. His marriage, his children, the majority of his wealth, his reputation. That's not getting away with it. He doesn't go to prison." "No." Nathan met Claire's eyes. "But your children keep their father. Damaged, humbled, supervised, but present." Claire stood, walked to the window. Below, people moved through their normal lives, going to coffee, going to work, unaware that 6 floors up, a woman was deciding whether to destroy her husband or simply defeat him. "I want one more thing," Claire said. "What?" "I want James to go to therapy. Real therapy, not couples counseling. Individual therapy focused on narcissistic personality disorder. Twice a week for at least 2 years. With a therapist I approve. And I want documented proof he's attending. Nathan started to object, but Claire cut him off. He traumatized our daughter. He's about to traumatize our son just by existing. If he wants to be in their lives, he needs to fix himself, or at least trauma him. I can present that to him. It's non-negotiable. No therapy, no deal. We file criminal charges. Nathan looked at Diane. Diane nodded. My client is being extremely generous. If James doesn't accept these terms, we proceed with criminal prosecution. And Nathan, we both know the evidence is overwhelming. He'll get 5 to 10 years minimum. I'll call him now. Nathan stepped out of the office. Through the glass, Claire watched him pace while talking on his phone. Animated, aggressive, then deflated. He hung up. When he came back, he looked exhausted. He accepts all terms, including the therapy requirement. I want it in writing, today. You'll have it by 5 p.m. After Nathan left, Claire collapsed into a chair. Diane poured her water. Marcus started running numbers on his laptop. Ashley, who'd been silent in the corner, spoke up. You let him off easy. I let him live, Claire corrected. There's a difference, Marwan. He'll still be wealthy. He'll still have the company. He'll still have power. But he won't have control over me, and that's the only power that matters. The settlement papers arrived at 4:47 p.m., 73 pages. Claire read every word. Buin, Diane and Marcus reviewed every clause. At 6:15, Claire signed. Her hand didn't shake. That surprised her. She thought it would shake. The custody exchange was scheduled for Saturday morning. Claire had to meet James in a parking lot to pick up Becca. It felt absurd. Divorce had reduced them to strangers meeting in parking lots. Becca ran to her before James even got out of the car. Mom, oh my God, Mom! They held each other. Becca was crying. Claire was crying. Behind them, James stood by his car watching. I'm so sorry, Becca said. I'm so sorry I didn't believe you. You don't have to apologize. He's your father. You loved him. I still love him, but I also hate him. Is that normal? Yes, it's very normal. Dad said he's going to therapy. He is. Will it help? I don't know, maybe. People can change if they want to. Do you think he wants to? Claire looked at James. He looked smaller somehow, diminished, like someone had let the air out of him. I think he wants to keep you in his life, and if therapy is the price, he'll pay it. Becca pulled back. I'm scared, Mom. Of what? Of everything changing, of going to Yale and leaving you pregnant and alone, of Dad being different or not being different, of this baby who's going to be born into this mess. The baby isn't being born into a mess. He's being born into a family that's honest now. Broken maybe, but honest. What should I call him? The baby? Owen. His name is Owen. Owen Montgomery? Claire paused. Owen Sullivan, after my father. Becca smiled through tears. Grandpa would love that. James approached slowly, like he was afraid they'd run. Claire, can we talk? We're talking right now. I mean alone. No, anything you need to say, you can say in front of Becca. James looked at his daughter, his beautiful, brilliant daughter who was looking at him like a stranger. I'm sorry for all of it, for everything. Okay, Becca said. That's it? Just okay? What do you want me to say, Dad? That I forgive you? I don't, not yet. Maybe not ever. But you're still my dad and I still love you and that's going to have to be enough. James looked like she'd hit him. Becca, I have to go. Yale orientation is next weekend and Mom's helping me pack. She walked back to Claire's car without looking back. James turned to Claire. The therapy. I start Monday. Good. I really am sorry. I know. That's it? Just, I know? Claire felt Owen kick again, strong, insistent. What do you want me to say, James? That I forgive you? That we can be friends? We can't. We'll never be friends, but we're going to be co-parents, and that's going to have to be enough. She got in her car. Becca was already buckled in the passenger seat. Are you okay? Becca asked. No, but I will be. They drove back to Diane's apartment. Claire had been staying there for 3 months. It was time to find her own place. Start her own life. the one she'd been planning in secret for half a year. That night, Claire and Becca had made a list of baby names. They'd settled on Owen, but they needed a middle name. Owen Thomas, Becca suggested, after Grandpa. Owen Thomas Sullivan, I love it. When can we see Grandpa? This weekend. He's having a good stretch of days. He'll want to know you got into Yale. Will you tell him about the money? About Dad paying him back? I already did. He cried. I've never seen my father cry before. They sat in comfortable silence for a while. The TV murmured in the background. Diane was working late. It was just the two of them. Mom? Yeah. Are you scared about having a baby alone? I'm not alone. I have you and Aunt Diane and Grandpa and my own strength. That's not alone. But you wanted to have babies with someone who loved you. I did, but life doesn't always give you what you want. Sometimes it gives you what you need instead. What do you need? Claire thought about that. I need to remember who I was before I became James Montgomery's wife. I need to paint again. I need to run my gallery without someone undermining me. I need to raise you and Owen to understand that love shouldn't hurt, that partnerships should be equal, that silence is sometimes abuse. That's a lot to need. Yeah, it is. Claire smiled, but I think I can handle it. 2 weeks later, Claire signed a lease on a small house in Westport. 3 bedrooms, a studio space for painting, walking distance to the beach. The mortgage was manageable on her settlement income. She could breathe there. The gallery reopened in October. Smaller than before, but hers, truly hers. She hung her own paintings on the walls, the first she'd created in 18 years. They weren't good, not really, technically proficient, but emotionally raw. But they were real, and that was enough. The opening night, people actually came. Gallery friends, art collectors, people who'd watched her marriage implode and wanted to support her anyway. Diane arrived with champagne, sparkling cider for Claire. To survival, Diane toasted. To resurrection, Claire corrected. They drank. Ashley came. She was showing now, 5 months pregnant. They stood together, looking at Claire's paintings. Do you regret it? Ashley asked. Not sending him to prison? Sometimes. Do you regret helping me? Never. How's the baby? Active, angry, I think. She knows she's inheriting a complicated situation. She? A girl. I'm naming her Lily. That's beautiful. Will you, when she's born, will you let Owen meet her? I know it's weird. They're half siblings from... Yes, Claire interrupted. Owen should know Lily. It's not the children's fault that the adults are messy. Ashley's eyes filled with tears. Thank you. Later that night, after everyone left, Claire stood alone in her gallery, one hand on her belly. Owen was quiet for once, resting maybe, gathering strength for the final weeks. She thought about the girl she'd been at 24, standing in this same gallery space, about to meet the man who would define the next 2 decades of her life. If she could go back and warn that girl, what would she say? Trust yourself. When something feels wrong, it probably is. Love shouldn't require you to disappear. Partnership means equality, not subjugation. But that girl wouldn't have listened. That girl needed to learn these lessons the hard way. Claire pulled out her phone, scrolled through her contacts, found James's number. She'd blocked it for months. Now she unblocked it and typed, "Thank you for signing the settlement. I know it wasn't easy. For what it's worth, I hope therapy helps you." She didn't expect a response, but one came 20 minutes later. "I start seeing Dr. Morrison on Monday, twice a week like you required. She seems tough." She is. That's why I chose her. Owen is lucky to have you as his mother. Claire stared at that message for a long time. It was probably the most honest thing James had said to her in years. Thank you. Becca is lucky to have you as her father. When you're healthy. She didn't hear back, but that was okay. They were learning a new language, the language of divorced parents who weren't enemies. Just 2 people who'd failed at marriage, but were trying not to fail at everything else. November arrived cold and gray. Claire was 34 weeks pregnant and enormous. Everything hurt. Her back, her hips, her feet. Owen seemed determined to occupy every available inch of space inside her. Becca came home from Yale for Thanksgiving. She looked different, older. College was changing her already. How's school? Claire asked over tea. She couldn't drink coffee anymore. The heartburn was unbearable. Hard, good, overwhelming. Becca smiled. I joined the debate team, and I'm taking a class on family law. Family law? Becca, I know what you're going to say, but Mom, watching you fight taught me something. The system is broken, and someone needs to fix it. Why not me? Claire felt her eyes fill. Pregnancy hormones or pride or both. I'm so proud of you. I saw Dad yesterday. How is he? Different. He talks about therapy a lot, about recognizing patterns, about accountability. Becca picked at her napkin. It's weird. Like he's becoming a stranger who's nicer than the dad I knew. Change is weird. Do you think it's real? Or is he just performing? I don't know. Time will tell. He asked about Owen, if he could be in the delivery room. Claire's entire body tensed. What did you tell him? That it was your decision. And what do you think I should do? Becca considered this. I think you should do whatever makes you feel safest. This is your body, your birth, your choice. That's very mature of you. I learned from the best. That night, Claire lay in bed trying to sleep. Owen was doing gymnastics. She pressed her hand against her belly and felt him push back. Easy, baby, we've got 6 more weeks. Her phone buzzed. James. Becca said she talked to you about the delivery. I don't want to pressure you. I just want you to know I'd like to be there, to meet our son. But I understand if you say no. Claire stared at the text. A year ago, she would have said yes without thinking. 6 months ago, she would have said no out of spite. Now, I'll think about it. She didn't hear back. James was learning boundaries. That was new. At 36 weeks, Claire went into early labor. False labor, the doctor said. Braxton Hicks contractions. But they felt real enough. She spent 6 hours in the hospital being monitored before they sent her home. Diane drove her. You called me instead of Becca. Is there a reason? Becca has finals. I didn't want to worry her. And James? Especially didn't want to worry him. Claire, he's the father. He has a right to know when his son almost arrives. I know, but I'm not ready to share this yet. Owen is mine right now. The last few weeks before everything changes, I want him to be just mine. Diane didn't argue. She understood. Thomas Sullivan came to visit that week. He was having a good stretch, lucid more days than not. He sat in Claire's new living room holding his granddaughter's hand, looking at his daughter's swollen belly. You did good, Claire Bear. I'm huge, Dad. I can't see my feet. I meant with the divorce, with standing up for yourself, with not letting him destroy you. He almost did destroy me. But he didn't. That's what matters. Thomas looked at Becca. Your mother is the strongest person I know. Don't forget that. I won't, Grandpa. When I'm gone, when the dementia takes me all the way, I want you both to remember this year. Remember that we fought back. We didn't let the bastard win. Dad, don't talk like that. I'm a judge, Claire. I know how to face facts. My mind is leaving. But before it goes completely, I want you to know, I'm proud of you, of both of you, of the women you are. They had Thanksgiving at Claire's house. Just the 3 of them and Diane. Claire cooked a turkey, though she couldn't eat much. Owen was taking up all the space where food should go. Next year, Owen will be here, Becca said, eating mashed potatoes and making a mess. Next year, you'll be home from Yale telling us about your classes and your friends and how exhausting college is, Claire countered. Next year, we'll all be okay, Diane added. Different, but okay. They toasted with sparkling cider, to survival, to family, to whatever came next. The custody exchange that weekend was easier than before. James arrived on time. He looked at Claire's belly like he couldn't quite believe what was happening. How are you feeling? Tired, huge, ready for this to be over. Have you thought about the delivery room? Claire had thought about it constantly. You can be there, in the waiting room. When Owen is born and I'm ready, I'll have someone come get you. But James, I know, on your terms. On my terms. Oh, he nodded. Something passed between them. Not forgiveness, not friendship. Understanding, maybe. They were going to be connected forever through their children. They might as well try to make it bearable. Becca came out of the house with her overnight bag. Ready, Dad. How's school? Good. Hard. I'm taking family law. James's expression flickered. Pain, maybe, or pride. Like your grandfather. Like Grandpa, Becca agreed. They drove away. Claire watched until the car disappeared around the corner. Then she went inside and cried. She cried so much during pregnancy. Everything made her emotional. At 38 weeks, Claire painted her final piece before Owen's birth, a self-portrait. She stood in front of the mirror, 8 months pregnant, and painted herself honestly. The exhaustion, the stretch marks, the strength in her shoulders, the steel in her eyes. She titled it Survivor. And the gallery sold it the next day to a collector who said it was the most powerful piece she'd done. Claire took the money and put it in Owen's college fund. At 39 weeks, Claire couldn't sleep. She was too big, too uncomfortable, too anxious. She walked through her house at 3 a.m., one hand on her belly, talking to Owen. You're going to be born into a weird situation, kid. Your dad and I aren't together. Your sister is brilliant but complicated. Your mom is still figuring out who she is. But here's what I promise you. I will love you. I will protect you. I will teach you that love shouldn't hurt and that people deserve respect and that it's okay to walk away from things that damage you. Owen kicked in response, hard enough to make Claire gasp. Okay, message received. You're ready. I'm ready. Let's do this thing. Her water broke 2 days later. 3 a.m. because of course. Claire called Diane first, then Becca, then her doctor. She did not call James. Not yet. The contractions started slowly, manageable. She showered, packed her hospital bag, called the gallery to cancel her meetings. By 10 a.m., the contractions were 5 minutes apart, and she could barely talk through them. Diane drove her to the hospital. Becca met them there, having raced from campus. At noon, Claire was 4 centimeters dilated and ready to die from the pain. Epidural, she gasped. Now, please. The anesthesiologist was an angel. Within 20 minutes, Claire felt human again. Better? Diane asked. So much better. Why did anyone ever give birth without drugs? That's insane. Becca laughed. It was shaky, nervous laughter, but it was something. At 6 p.m., Claire was 8 centimeters. The doctor said Owen would be here by midnight. Should we call Dad? Becca asked. Claire considered this. She was in a hospital gown, sweating, exhausted, about to push a human out of her body. Did she want James to see her like this? No. But it wasn't about what she wanted. Yes, call him. James arrived at 7:30. Diane met him in the waiting room and laid down the rules. You wait here. When the baby is born, we'll come get you. You get 15 minutes. Claire is in control. I understand. At 11:47 p.m., Owen Thomas Sullivan entered the world screaming. 7 pounds, 9 ounces, perfect. They placed him on Claire's chest, and she fell completely apart. This tiny, wrinkled, furious human was hers, really hers. No one could take him away. No one could control him. He was pure and new and perfect. Hi, baby, she whispered. Hi, Owen. I'm your mom. I've been waiting to meet you. Owen stopped crying, looked at her with unfocused eyes, decided she was acceptable. Becca was crying. Diane was crying. The nurse was crying. Everyone was crying except Owen, who had apparently gotten his crying out of the way. He's perfect, Mom. He really is. After an hour after Owen had been cleaned and measured and swaddled, Claire looked at Diane. Okay, you can get James. James walked into the hospital room like he was entering a church, reverent, awed. He looked at Claire holding Owen and something in his face cracked. He's here. He's here. Can I Yes. James sat in the chair next to Claire's bed. She passed Owen to him carefully. James held his son like he was made of glass. Owen Thomas Sullivan, James said softly. After your great-grandfather. Yes. Thank you for letting me be here, for letting me know him. You're his father, flawed, damaged, working on yourself, but still his father. Owen yawned, grabbed James's finger. James started crying. I'm going to do better, James said. I'm going to be better. For him, for Becca, for you. Do it for yourself, James. That's the only way it sticks. They sat like that for 15 minutes. Claire exhausted and sore. James holding his son. Becca, watching her family rearrange itself into something new. When the 15 minutes were up, James kissed Owen's forehead and gave him back to Claire. I'll see you at the first custody exchange. 2 weeks after I recover. Take all the time you need. James left. Claire watched him go. Then she looked down at Owen, sleeping peacefully in her arms. Welcome to the world, baby. It's complicated here, but we're going to be okay. Owen was 2 weeks old when Claire brought him to the gallery for the first time. She'd converted a back office into a nursery. Pack and play, changing table, a comfortable chair for feeding. She'd sworn she wouldn't be one of those mothers who brought their baby to work. But here she was. Turns out babies didn't care about your pre-baby plans. Ashley came by that afternoon. Lily was 3 months old now, sleeping in a carrier against Ashley's chest. How's motherhood? Ashley asked. Exhausting, beautiful, terrifying. How about you? Same, plus the added fun of explaining to people why I'm a single mother by choice. By choice? That's what I tell them. It sounds better than because I was sleeping with a married man who planned to pay me off. Claire laughed. It felt good to laugh. They're half-siblings. That's so weird. So weird, but also kind of perfect. Ashley looked at Owen sleeping in his bassinet. They'll grow up knowing each other. That's something. James pays child support? More than required. I think he's trying to prove something. To you or to himself? Both, probably. They sat together in comfortable silence. Two women connected by the same man's mistakes, now connected by something better. Motherhood, survival, choice. The first custody exchange with Owen was scheduled for his 1-month birthday. Claire spent the week preparing herself emotionally. She'd read articles about co-parenting with narcissists. She'd talked to Dr. Morrison about boundaries. She'd practiced what to say. None of it prepared her for the reality of handing her baby to James. They met in the gallery parking lot. James arrived exactly on time. He'd been working on punctuality and therapy, he'd told Becca, following through on commitments. Hi, James said. Hi. He's gotten bigger. Babies do that. Right, of course. James looked nervous. Good, he should be nervous. Claire had packed everything Owen might need. Bottles, diapers, change of clothes, his favorite blanket. She'd written instructions, feeding schedule, sleep cues, emergency contacts. You'll have him for 4 hours. That's what we agreed. I remember. My phone will be on. If anything happens, I'll call. Claire picked up Owen from his car seat. He was awake, looking around with that unfocused baby stare that seemed to see everything and nothing. This is your dad, Owen. He's going to take care of you for a few hours. She placed Owen in James's arms. Every instinct screamed at her to grab him back, to run, to never let James near her baby. But that wasn't fair to Owen, or even to James, who was genuinely trying. I'll see you in 4 hours, Claire said. 4 hours. She drove away, made it 3 blocks before she pulled over and sobbed. Those 4 hours were the longest of Claire's life. She tried to paint, couldn't focus, tried to do gallery paperwork, couldn't concentrate. Finally, she called Diane. He's been gone for 2 hours and I'm losing my mind. That's normal. First time is always hardest. What if something happens? What if James isn't capable? James is capable of caring for a baby for 4 hours. He did it with Becca. That was different. We were married. I was there. And now you're here on the phone catastrophizing. Owen is fine. James is fine. You need to breathe. Claire breathed. At exactly the 4-hour mark, James pulled into the parking lot. Claire practically ran to the car. Owen was sleeping peacefully in his car seat. How was he? Perfect. We went to the park. He slept most of it. Woke up, ate, went back to sleep. No problems? No problems. Claire unbuckled Owen, held him close. He smelled like baby and James's cologne and outdoor air. Alive, safe, fine. Thank you for trusting me with him, James said quietly. You're his father. I have to trust you. But you don't. Not really. And I get that. I'm working on earning it. They looked at each other. Two people who'd loved each other once, destroyed each other after, now trying to build something from the ruins. How's therapy? Claire asked. Hard. Dr. Morrison doesn't let me get away with anything. She called me out last week for trying to control the narrative. Said I was still treating relationships like business deals. Are you? Probably, but I'm learning. That's all anyone can do. December arrived with snow. Owen was 2 months old and starting to smile. Claire captured everything on her phone. First real smile, first laugh, first time he grabbed his toes. Becca came home for winter break. She'd made Dean's List her first semester. Claire put the certificate on the refrigerator like Becca was 5 years old. Mom, I'm 18. I don't care. I'm proud of you. They had Christmas at Claire's house. Small, intimate. Diane came. Thomas came, having a good day. Ashley and Lily came, which felt both strange and right. They didn't invite James. Claire wasn't ready for that yet, but she sent him photos of Owen in his Santa outfit. James sent back a photo of Becca at his apartment, decorating a tree. Blended family 2.0. Modern, complicated, functional enough. In January, Claire got a call from Nathan Price. This is unusual, but I wanted to let you know, James completed his first 3 months of therapy. Dr. Morrison sent me her evaluation. Why, sir, why are you calling me? Because the evaluation says James has made significant progress. Dr. Morrison is recommending you consider increasing his custody time with Owen. Claire's stomach dropped. He wants more time? He wants overnights, 1 night a week to start. Owen is 3 months old. I know, and you have every right to say no. I'm just conveying the request. Claire hung up, looked at Owen sleeping in his swing. Overnights meant she wouldn't see her baby for 24 hours. Meant trusting James with nighttime feedings and crying and all the ways babies needed their mothers. She called Dr. Morrison. Claire, I was wondering if I'd hear from you. Nathan said you recommended increasing custody. Is James ready for that? James is making progress, real progress. He's confronting his narcissistic patterns. He's learning empathy. He's working on seeing people as autonomous beings rather than extensions of his needs. That's great. But is he ready for overnights with a 3-month-old? That's not a therapy question. That's a parenting question, and only you can answer it. Claire thought about it for days. Talked to Diane, who said the decision was Claire's. Talked to Becca, who said Owen should know his father. Talked to Ashley, who said trust your instincts. Her instincts said no, absolutely not. Too soon, too risky. But her brain said, James is trying, he's showing up, he's doing the work. Don't punish him for past crimes if he's genuinely changing. In February, Claire agreed to 1 overnight per week, Wednesday nights. James picked up Owen at 6 p.m., brought him back Thursday at 6 p.m. The first Wednesday, Claire didn't sleep. She stared at her phone all night waiting for a call. It never came. Thursday at 6, James brought Owen home clean, fed, happy. How was it? He cried from 1 to 3 a.m. Nothing helped. I walked him, fed him, changed him. He just cried. Then suddenly he stopped and fell asleep. That's the witching hour. Babies do that sometimes. I thought I was doing something wrong. Welcome to parenting. That feeling never goes away. James laughed. It was tired, genuine laughter. The kind Claire remembered from 20 years ago when they'd stayed up all night talking about dreams. Same time next week? James asked. Same time. Spring came. Owen was 5 months old, sitting up, eating solids, laughing at everything. Claire took him to the gallery every day. Customers loved him. He became the unofficial mascot. One afternoon, an older woman came in. She looked at Claire's paintings, looked at Owen and his playpen, looked back at Claire. You're the one, the woman said. I'm sorry? The billionaire's wife who divorced him. It was all over the society pages last year. Claire felt her defenses rise. I was. I'm not anymore. Good for you. My daughter stayed with her husband through 3 affairs in a bankruptcy. She's miserable. You did the right thing. Thank you. These paintings, they're angry. They are. I'll take this one. The woman pointed to Survivor, the self-portrait. How much? That one already sold. Shame. It's the best one. After the woman left, Claire looked at her paintings. They were angry, raw, hurt. They told the story of someone being destroyed and rebuilding. Maybe it was time for new paintings, ones that told different stories. In May, Claire started a new series, Mother and child paintings. Not precious or sentimental. Real. Mothers exhausted at 3 a.m. Mothers covered in spit up. Mothers laughing, mothers surviving. The series sold out in 3 weeks. You should do a show, Diane said. A real show. Get reviewed. I'm not ready for that. When will you be ready? Claire looked at Owen, now 6 months old, babbling, reaching for everything, growing so fast. Soon, she said. Maybe soon. The custody exchanges became routine, mechanical. Wednesday nights, James took Owen. Thursday evenings, he brought him back. Every other weekend, James took both Owen and Becca. Claire learned to use the time. She painted, she read, she slept. She remembered who she was before she became someone's wife and someone's mother. She was Claire Sullivan, artist, gallery owner, survivor. That was enough. 1 year later, Owen's first birthday party was held at Claire's house on a sunny November afternoon. She'd invited everyone. Diane, Marcus, Ashley, and Lily. Thomas in his wheelchair having more bad days than good now. Becca was home from Yale, sophomore year going well. James was invited too. That had been Becca's idea. He's Owen's father, Mom, and it's been a year. Can we try? So James came. He brought age-appropriate toys and stayed in the background. He helped set up chairs. He made coffee. He didn't try to control anything. Therapy was working. Owen sat in his high chair, cake smeared across his face, laughing at everything. Lily, now 14 months old, toddled around stealing toys. It was chaos. It was perfect. Claire stood in her kitchen watching her family, biological and chosen, celebrate her son's first year of life. James approached quietly. He looks like you, James said. He has your eyes. But your determination. They watched Owen pull himself up, reaching for a toy. How's therapy? Claire asked. Good. Hard. Morrison wants me to write apology letters. I already did. To you, to Becca, to your father. Those are for you, not me. I know, I'm also dating someone. Margaret, a pediatrician, 2 kids from a previous marriage. Claire examined her feelings. Relief mostly. That's good, James. You deserve to be happy. What about you? I'm focused on Owen and the gallery and remembering who I am. That's enough. The party wound down. Thomas left with his caretaker. Ashley and Lily left. James was last to leave. Thank you for including me. You're his father. You'll always be included. I know we're never going to be friends, but I'm grateful for the way you're handling this. You deserve the chance to be a good father. That's separate from being a good husband. After James left, Becca helped clean up while Owen napped. That went well, Becca said. It did. Do you think you'll ever forgive him? Really forgive him? I don't know. Forgiveness isn't something you decide. It's something that happens or doesn't happen over time. Right now, I'm in the doesn't hate him anymore phase. That's progress. Winter arrived. Owen was 15 months old, walking, talking, thriving. Claire's gallery was successful. Her paintings sold as fast as she could create them. Thomas died in February, peacefully in his sleep. At the funeral, Claire delivered the eulogy. My father taught me that justice matters, that standing up matters. When I was drowning, he threw me a life raft made of legal documents in unwavering belief. He saved me, and I will spend the rest of my life teaching my children the lessons he taught me. James sat in the back, respectful, appropriate. In March, Margaret met Owen for the first time. She was kind-faced, professional. It's nice to meet you, Margaret said. James talks about Owen constantly. It's nice to meet you too. For what it's worth, James talks about the work he's doing in therapy. I think he's genuinely trying. I hope so, for everyone's sake. Spring brought new paintings. Claire started a series called After. The paintings were softer than her previous work, healing instead of hurt. A New York Times art critic reviewed her show. Claire Sullivan paints the archaeology of survival. The result is profound, intimate, and universally resonant. The gallery sold out in 1 day. In May, on the anniversary of filing for divorce, Claire took Owen to the beach. He loved the ocean, screaming with delight when waves touched his toes. She thought about the woman she'd been 2 years ago, tracking her husband, photographing documents at 2 a.m., building a case while pregnant and terrified. That woman had survived. More than survived, She'd transformed. Mama, water! Owen pointed at the waves. Yes, baby, water. She picked him up, held him close. This boy would never see her broken. He'd only know her whole. That summer, Claire got a call from a woman named Marianne Chen, who ran a nonprofit helping domestic violence survivors. Ms. Sullivan, would you be interested in speaking at our annual fundraiser, sharing your experience? Claire hesitated. She'd been private for so long, but maybe it was time. Yes, I'll do it. The fundraiser was in August, 300 people. Claire stood at the podium. My name is Claire Sullivan. 2.5 years ago, I was serving divorce papers to my husband. I was 14 weeks pregnant, terrified, convinced I was losing everything. I was right, I did lose everything. My marriage, my financial security temporarily, my daughter's trust temporarily. But here's what I gained. Myself, my art, my peace, my strength, my children, my truth. So to everyone here tonight sitting in ruins, wondering if you'll make it, you will. Not easily, not quickly, but you will survive. And one day you'll look back at the person you are now and barely recognize her. The room erupted in applause. Women approached her afterward, thanked her, told their stories, showed photos of their children, their new apartments, their acceptance letters. A whole army of survivors. Claire drove home feeling exhausted but purposeful. She'd walked through fire. She'd carried her children to safety. She'd built something beautiful from ashes. On Owen's second birthday, the whole family gathered. Margaret and her kids came. James looked genuinely happy. Becca brought her boyfriend from Yale. Diane brought a date. Ashley and Lily were there. They'd become something new. Not traditional family, a constellation. Claire watched from her kitchen window. This was healing. Messy, complicated, imperfect healing. The party was perfect, cake and chaos and laughter. James gave Owen a toy truck. Claire gave him art supplies. I'm sorry, James said quietly to Claire. I genuinely understand now what I took from you. I know you do, and I forgive you. James looked shocked. You do? I do, not because you deserve it, but because holding on to anger was destroying me. Forgiveness isn't for you, James, it's for me. The sun set, everyone left. James was last again. Same time Wednesday? Same time. He hesitated. You really have forgiven me? I really have. But forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting or trusting you with my heart again. It just means I've let go of the anger. After James left, Claire put Owen to bed. She stood in his doorway watching him sleep. This beautiful boy born into chaos but growing up knowing only love. Becca came up behind her. He's perfect. He really is. Thank you, Mom, for fighting, for showing me that leaving is possible, for being brave when you were terrified. They sat together in comfortable silence. Claire thought about the woman she'd been 3 years ago, terrified but fighting anyway. She'd survived the billionaire who enjoyed nights with his lover. She'd prepared shocking divorce papers. She'd fought the war. And she'd won. Not perfectly, but enough. The Montgomery Gallery reopening happened on a crisp November evening, 2 years after the divorce was finalized. Claire had rebranded completely. The gallery wasn't about trauma anymore. It was about emergence. Becca was home from Yale, junior year now, thriving in family law classes. Owen was nearly 2, running everywhere, talking constantly. James came with Margaret and her 2 kids. They stood politely at the edge, not imposing. Ashley came with Lily. The girls played together while adults drank wine. Diane gave a toast to Claire Sullivan, artist, mother, friend, warrior. You taught me that resurrection is possible. To Claire! Everyone raised their glasses. Claire looked around, at her paintings, at her daughter laughing, at her son running between guests, at her found family. 2 years ago, she'd served divorce papers. Today, she stood in her own gallery, living her own life. Later that night, after everyone left, Claire stood alone in the gallery. Her phone buzzed. James, the gallery looks amazing. Your paintings are incredible. Incredible. I'm proud of you. 2 years ago, that would have made her angry. Now it just made her sad for what could have been. Thank you. How's Margaret? Good, we're getting serious. Are you dating yet? Not really, I'm okay with that. You deserve to be happy, Claire. I am happy. Happiness doesn't require a partner. It requires peace, and I have that now. She drove home with Becca and Owen. Normal. Beautifully, perfectly normal. Mom, do you think you'll ever write a book about what happened? Becca asked. Maybe someday, when Owen is older, when the story can be told without damaging anyone. That night, Claire stood in her studio. One painting remained unfinished. A woman walking away from ruins, carrying a child, another holding her hand. Behind them, fire. Ahead, sunrise. She finished it, titled it Line Item No More. The next morning, Owen woke her at 6 a.m. Mama, hungry. They made breakfast together. Pancakes, fruit. Becca made coffee. Owen made a mess. Claire felt deep, quiet contentment with the life she'd built from ruins. Her phone buzzed. Line item no more had sold, $75,000. Later, she got a letter. Dear Ms. Sullivan, I bought your painting for my daughter. She's divorcing her husband after he hid assets and cheated. She saw your painting and said, if she did it, I can too. Thank you for painting survival. Claire framed the letter and hung it in her studio. This was why she painted. For women crying in apartments, looking at ruins, needing proof resurrection was possible. 3 months later, Becca called from Yale. Excited. Mom, I got an internship at the Innocence Project. Becca, that's incredible. Grandpa would be so proud. I'm going to dedicate my first case to him. That spring, Claire spoke at more fundraisers. Her story helped others. She painted new series, reconstruction, then resilience, then joy. The custody exchanges became routine. Wednesday nights, James took Owen. Every other weekend, both kids. Claire learned to use the time. She painted, she rested. She remembered who she was. Claire Sullivan, artist, gallery owner, survivor. That was enough. 5 years later, the Connecticut Law Review published with Becca on the cover. Rising stars in family law reform. She was 26, making waves at her legal aid clinic. Owen was 6, first grade. Brilliantly unusual, his teacher said. James had married Margaret. Claire had sent a painting titled New Beginnings. James had cried. They'd found their rhythm. Modern family at its finest. One day, Becca called. Mom, remember that case I've been working on? We won, and the judge cited your case. Montgomery versus Montgomery, it set precedent. Claire sat down, overwhelmed. Her fight was changing the law, helping other women win. That was legacy. She pulled out her phone, opened old notes, read what she'd written years ago, then added, 5 years later, I'm sitting in my gallery surrounded by paintings I created. My daughter is changing the law. My son is thriving. My ex-husband is genuinely better. And I am completely myself. They ask if I regret the marriage. I don't. It gave me my children. It taught me what I won't tolerate. It showed me I'm made of steel. They ask if I'm happy. I am. The quiet happiness of someone who knows exactly who they are. I was never meant to be a billionaire's wife. I was meant to be Claire Sullivan, artist, mother, survivor, truth teller, and that is exactly who I am. She saved the note. Tomorrow she'd start a new painting. Tonight she'd go home, make dinner for Owen, read bedtime stories, and she'd dream of phoenixes rising, of women holding divorce papers, terrified but determined, of her father smiling, of Becca changing laws, of Owen painting dreams. She'd dream of survival becoming legacy, because that's what survivors do. They survive, they thrive, they paint their truth, and then they teach others to do the same. Claire turned off the gallery lights, walked to her car under stars. Line item no more. Never again.